Hey, be a squid and subscribe to my mediocrity. How's it going, my squids? Today we're going to be doing the Remnant from the Ashes review. It's going to be a pretty lengthy one, maybe, just because there's kind of a lot to cover here. And there's also a lot I want to talk about, but just for the people that want a short, quick, to the point sort of situation, it is definitely worth your time and worth the $40. The amount of content that's here, as well as the replayability, it's a steal. It's genuinely a steal. I can't help but recommend it to the absolute fucking max, but it does have flaws and to a certain degree, but overall, there's not really a plethora of flaws that outweigh the absolute amazingness that is this game. So just there you go. If you want to get it, definitely pick it up. It's worth your time and money. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the actual meat of this video, and let's go over the good stuff first. Now let's start with the combat, which is absolutely fantastic. Right, I'm losing words. I got no words. I really can't begin to appreciate how amazing the weapons feel. Like, just the loud bangs of, the guns, and then the smacks of the melee weapons, and then the actual effects that you get with mods and whatnot. It's just, it all ties in so perfectly, and as well as it's satisfying as shit, dude. One of the main issues I had with Outward was, I'd be using this big-ass hammer, and the sound that you would get with hitting with the giant hammer or even the sword, whatever, it just didn't really reflect what you would expect. You know what I mean? Like, you're using this giant electrifying sword, and then you swing it, and it kind of just sounds like you're throwing a tin can at somebody. And if you're using something that's huge and you just want to smack someone upside the head with it, you expect to have that impact, and you want to make sure that you feel it. You want to feel that shit in the vibration, in the control, and you want to make sure the sound replicates what you're holding, and that is done perfectly here in this game. It is one of the most satisfying just combat schemes I've ever seen, and for only $40, I'm thoroughly impressed with how they managed to pull this off. Aside from how the combat feels, I want to get into some of the things that are super good about this game in terms of like mods and different types of weapons. So they've kind of gone for like kind of this end of the world Mad Max steampunk sort of look. So some of the weapons, they don't really look like things that you would naturally see, like the Winchester rifle. Once you put a mod on it, it kind of looks like this, I don't know, like somebody strapped a toaster to it, and then like it's made out of fucking exhaust pipes and shit. So it looks cool, don't get me wrong. It sounds like it's hot garbage, but it's really not. Even the Scrapper, his whole armor set is kind of just like scrap thrown together. It's not super knight looking or something that you would expect. This is end of the world Mad Max shit, and it all works and it ties in beautifully. And as for the mods, it's a core part of the game. You have to pay attention to these and build your character accordingly, because this mod, whatever it is that you're using, whether it be Mantle of Thorns, or if it's the, what the fuck is it? Ah, fuck, shit, it's like the Hunter's Mark, or you're using the heal. Like, these are all things that are very viable and helpful in a variety of different situations, and they're interchangeable. You can change them at any point in time for a certain boss fight that maybe you feel like, oh, maybe if I use the heal at this particular moment during the boss fight, it'll actually help me. Or if I use Mantle of Thorns, that this will help me do a little bit of extra damage because this boss is always running up on me. These things all work very well with different characters, between the Hunter, the Scrapper, and also the ex-cultist or Doomslayer, whatever the hell he is. All of their different kinds of mods that they get, and all the ones that you obtain from certain bosses and just from finding random NPCs, they all work in certain builds, and you can do a variety of them, and that's so good. The amount of options are amazing. And don't even get me started on the guns. Like, I'm still kind of in love with even the starter guns because they all feel and sound great. But once you start unlocking new stuff, like I just beat the tree ant boss and he gave me a grenade shotgun. Yeah, I know, completely crazy. It's absolutely wonderful. But the base gun is a shotgun, and then once you actually get a bunch of kills and rack up the mod capacity slot, then it turns into a grenade launcher, and then the more you kill, the more grenades you get. That is absolutely wonderful. You basically just get kills with a one-shot shotgun pretty much, and it's super good and it's very strong. And then once you're fully stacked and ready to go, you just unload your whole grenade launcher and just blow everybody to pieces. And it's not like they're so generic with their weapons either. Like, yeah, there's like, you know, shotguns, sniper rifles, but the way they change up what they do is fantastic. Like I said, grenade launcher, shotgun. Typically, I feel like a game like this would, like a lazy studio would just be like, you get a cool shotgun that looks different, but it's basically just a shotgun. But this one, it gives you the variety of different parts on it that allow it to turn into something bigger than a shotgun, which is absolutely amazing. Now I want to talk about the world exploration and environment. Now this is something that was interesting, and it came as a surprise because when I was first making my videos on Remnant from the Ashes, I did not know that the worlds were procedurally generated, which was like a complete fucking curveball because that made it pretty much impossible for me to make tutorials on this fucking game, which sucks because I can't exactly help you guys that are struggling, but I can give general directions as to where things are. So for example, there's a sniper rifle that you can obtain in the game after the Church of Darkness, or whatever the fuck it's called. It's like the Church of the Harbinger or something like that. Anyway, once you beat that boss fight, you just basically go left in the little corridor, follow the church down, and then you will find a sniper rifle. That is universally always going to be there. So no matter what world you get, that sniper rifle is not going to move from that spot. Same thing with the submachine gun. Every time you start a new world, those guns are ultimately always available to you from the start. So no matter where you are or where you go, these things are going to be there for all your characters. And something that I also tested, which I thought was interesting, there's an item called a strange coin, which allows you to unlock the like magnum revolver or whatever. And the strange thing about the coin was that it spawns in two locations, one in an alleyway and one in a subway. So depending on what world you get, it can be in either one of those locations. I still can't generally tell you where the coin is going to be, but what I can tell you is that it's going to be in those two locations, but it's somewhere within there that you're going to have to find yourself in your own world. See, the coin will spawn randomly in one of those areas, but as to where in those areas is up to your world pretty much. So just making guides and having you guys look up shit, it's gonna be pretty hard. So it implores you to explore the world. I'm not sure if it was intended and how they want this to be made, but basically it's kind of ruining YouTube careers realistically. Like, pretty much the only thing you can make guides on in this game is kind of boss fights and just, you know, kind of showing off details and weapons and stuff like that, and just kind of walkthroughs. But in terms of like advertising their game, it's pretty hard because it's a limited amount of content that you can do. You could, you know, advertise builds and stuff like that, but ultimately it just is going to come down to you as the player, because you're going to end up having to explore these just procedurally generated worlds yourself. You're going to have to figure all the secrets out yourself. You can't find that stuff. What you can search for is if it exists, but you yourself have to find it. So even though you know it exists, you still got to go out and do it yourself anyway. I love that feature as a player, but as a content creator, man, that shit blows, because I just, you know, I can't do anything with that. Just the exploration part alone, just as a player playing the game regularly, it's so vast, it's so good. Just having to search every nook and cranny for secrets, for different, you know, guns and upgrades and whatnot, talking to different NPCs, learning about the world and trying to find these items. It's all so well done, and it's not boring either. There are certain parts where I'm like, Snoresville, like that. Like there's one part where you have to talk to this dude named Mutter or something like that, and you pretty much talk to him for like an hour. Not really, but you have to talk to him for a good while, and he will give you a pocket watch, which everybody claims that it's one of the best, but I'm like, this thing's whatever. It's not that great in my personal opinion. Anyway, he gives you the pocket watch, and you know, it's boring, but again, you discovered something through talking to this NPC, and it wasn't so ridiculous and out there that you kind of fell asleep during it. It was something that was quite interesting, and that pocket watch can be used to be given to his like son, and then he gives you a complete armor set, which is again pretty fucking cool. There's just so much to this game that I just can't help but just praise it so much. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump into some of the negatives here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rip it off like a band-aid and tell it how it is. All right, so the boss fights are pretty lame and dumb as fuck. So, and this is not coming from a place where it's I'm dying every 5 minutes or whatever. No, these boss fights are not intricate. They're not hard whatsoever. They're annoying. That's what they are. They are annoying. This is my main gripe with Remnant from the Ashes, is that they got extremely lazy with boss fights. And don't get me wrong, there are the ones that are pretty impressive and are not as annoying and I think are really well done and where the mob fighting comes in, but basically most of the boss fights consist of boss pattern, which is pretty easy to memorize, but it's overshadowed by the amount of mobs that appear, which is really stupid. So for example, there's some gameplay in the background. I'm fighting the tree ant boss, and this fight is nowhere near particularly hard whatsoever, but I found myself dying to it a couple times because I just had to figure out how to manage the ads, and that's pretty much been every single boss fight, is how to manage the ads, because the boss is not in particularly hard, it's just the ads are basically making it hard, and that's what's lazy in my personal opinion, because instead of creating these really intricate and different phases of bosses that make the bosses interesting, instead it's just an ad fight. That's all it is. It's just wait for the ads to show up, clear the ads, then kill the boss. That's all it is, and it's a lot of kiting. That's really it, is just kiting left and right. You're just gonna kite over here, and then you're gonna kite over there, kill an ad, kill an ad, kill an ad, shoot the boss, boom. That's basically the formula to killing every boss in this game. There are the ones that doesn't necessarily work on all the time, but ultimately that is essentially how this works. And just because I'm saying this, that doesn't make this a deal breaker whatsoever, at least for me, because I still find myself enjoying it. It's just I wish the boss fights were a bit more intricate and interesting, but you know, for the $40 price point, I mean, they had to have cut corners somewhere, and I guess that's where the boss designs come in. So it is what it is. There's certain bosses that are not following this formula and that are not that insane in terms of just, you know, summoning mobs every 5 seconds, but there are a lot of boss fights that are like that, and it's pretty lame. The next gripe I have is some of the balancing around certain weapons, and it's not that anything's broken or too broken, it's that some of the weapons are downright unusable. Like the Spitfire was pretty fucking awful until they buffed it, which that, you know, kudos to you guys for, you know, paying attention to that, but just, man, I really loved that weapon, and that would have helped me out a lot whenever I was fighting the fucking Harrow boss, where he just murdered my ass because he summons 50 million ads. So yeah, just certain weapons, just be wary of. They're pretty ass, and I know not every weapon needs to be broken or even like super good, but I would at least like them to be viable. But there are just some weapons in the game that are just straight worthless, like the Hunter's Pistol. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but the DPS that you get out of it is kind of whatever, and the fact that you only get one bullet is kind of terrible. Like, it just, I want to use it because it looks cool and it's a flintlock pistol and it does a lot of damage, but why would you ever swap out for the, you know, the flintlock whenever you have the 44 Magnum? It just doesn't make sense. The Magnum pretty much puts out like equal DPS almost essentially with the Hunter's Pistol, like comparatively, so it's just a lot more consistent because you get 6 shots in the chamber, the reload's not that bad, and it's just overall a better pistol. So I don't know, I just want things to be viable, and that's just maybe a nitpick gripe, but that's what I got to say. And one other gripe that I have that's kind of minor that I imagine should and will get patched is the fact that some of the creatures are clipping through walls. I've seen this happen to me countless times, especially with certain bosses and certain creatures that have like extended moves or whatever, and they can basically hit through objects that they should not be hitting through. And it's not like they're breaking the wall or breaking anything. No, they're clipping through the wall and hitting me on the other side. So there should be a line of sight situation, but instead of there being that, they can just go through the wall, and it's really annoying. It's genuinely annoying. So I hope that gets patched, but that's pretty much the only gripes I have with the game. It's like I said, the amount of good that's there is definitely way higher than the amount that's bad. The bosses being pretty lame is pretty much the only huge gripe I have. So overall, this game is absolutely amazing. I am so glad that they have come out with it despite the issues. I imagine they'll balance everything properly, they'll have some great content for the future, and it's just going to be a wonderful time. I love this game to the absolute utmost. Just woo, it's so good. Anyway, that pretty much concludes today's video. I highly recommend you at least give a try of Remnant from the Ashes because it's so good. If you like Dark Souls, if you like difficulty, if you just want to have pain and suffering and so much fun in video games, and you want to play it cooperatively with a friend, it's there, it's available, and it's pretty stable from what I can tell, so I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out if you're interested. But yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.